Hey, how's it going everybody? My name is Aryan and I'm a wedding videographer, and in this video I'll be showing you guys everything I take with me to a wedding in this camera case right here. Starting with the case itself, this is the Nanook 950 with the dividers and the lid organizer. Now I recently upgraded to this from my low pro backpack. I mean, I still use the backpack, it's great, but I just use it for other projects because for weddings there's just a bit too much stuff, and if you're using a backpack, I mean, you can make it work, but I just find that I have to carry a lot of other small bags as well. Like for example, my drone probably won't fit in my camera bag, or my audio stuff just won't fit. Like I have 3 camera bodies, 6 lenses. It's just either very crammed, or I just find myself leaving stuff behind because it just won't fit, or it's just like other tiny small bags I have to carry for separate things. I just find that really annoying. So this is just one case that holds every single thing I need throughout the day, which is very nice. I mean, of course it doesn't hold like the big light stands and everything, but I have a separate case for that as well. So 2 big cases and I can pretty much carry every single thing I need for a wedding. With that out of the way, let me show you guys what's inside this case. Starting with this camera body. This is my main camera body right here. This is the Sony a7 Mark IV with the small rig wooden handle. Now I recently got this wooden handle because I just feel like it gives me a nice grip. Now this is my A-cam. It stays with me throughout the day, and this is mainly for those handheld shots. Now I really like the handheld look, so I will keep this with me most of the day. And yeah, I've been really liking this wooden handle as well. And the nice thing about this case that it's pretty deep, and you can just leave the handle on and I can just tuck it away like that. No issues at all, it closes just fine. Now to my B-cam, and surprise, it is another A7 IV. Now this one here has got a small rig half cage on it with a NATO rail on top, mainly because I like to have a handle on top with a monitor. Now this thing usually stays on a monopod or a tripod, and it's got like an 85mm on it for my second shooter. I personally just don't trust these hot shoes to attach monitors anymore, so the half cage doesn't add too much bulk and I feel like it just works. It's still pretty compact, but everything is secure. These rigs are expensive and I just don't want to break anything, so I would rather have this than use the hot shoe. So yeah, that's my B cam, another A7 IV. Moving on to my C cam is actually another A7 IV that you guys are looking at right now. Now this camera, it stays in this case for the first half of the day. I don't need it for the prep or the first look or any of that stuff. It mainly comes out for the ceremony, which I just leave it on a tripod on one of the sides, either the bride cam or the groom cam. But yeah, that is an A7 IV I use as a C cam. Now let's move on to lenses, and I think we should start with this guy right here because this is probably my most used lens. This is the Sigma Art 24-70. I've had this lens for a very long time, and yeah, this just stays on my A-cam, which stays with me all the time. I highly recommend you guys get any 24-70. I mean, I personally use the Sigma Art, but I think 24-70 is just a great focal range. It's gonna be an absolute workhorse, especially for like the first half of the day and the last third. I mean, for prep, first look, and receptions, absolutely, this is the lens I go for all the time on my A-cam. Again, the focal range just works. But for the ceremony itself, depending on the venue, sometimes this can be a bit limiting because I sometimes need a little bit more reach. So I either end up using the crop mode on these cameras, or I'll just use a different lens. But honestly, for most of the day, this is an absolute workhorse, and this should definitely be your first lens. Now, moving on to the second lens, and that would be this guy right here. This is the Sony 85mm 1.8. Now, this was the first ever prime lens I got way back in the day for my A7 III, and I am in love with this lens. It's absolutely beautiful. But when I originally got it, I used it for pretty much everything other than weddings, because I was just really scared to use a prime lens on a wedding because I was just starting out and it was just not a risk I wanted to take. But honestly, nowadays I give this to my second shooter and he pretty much has this on his camera for most of the day. But I'm just in love with the 85, and especially if you can afford a little bit of like a riskier approach, I highly recommend a prime lens, a 1.8 or a 1.4. I mean, it just takes your projects to the next level. Especially for like the formals with the couple, you can definitely take advantage of a prime lens, just that prime look, because if you mess up, you can just redo the shot. Maybe I don't recommend this for like the ceremony where, you know, you only get one shot, but for pretty much everything else where you can do multiple takes, I highly recommend a prime lens, and 85 is definitely my favorite. Next up, we have another zoom, and this one I actually picked up pretty recently. This is the Sigma Contemporary 28-70. This I just got. This is kind of like a filler lens because I don't want to use my kit lens, which I still have as a backup, but I would really rather use a 2.8 lens. So this is mainly worst case scenario, me and my second shooter, we both need like that 24 to 70 focal range. That's why I got this lens. This is not for any creative artsy stuff. It's basically just there to be a workhorse in a way, right? Sometimes the venue is pretty small for the wedding and we both need to work in that 24 to 70 range. So that's what that lens is for. I try not to use it, but it's there if I need it. Another prime, we have a Sony 50 1.8. Absolutely garbage lens. I hardly ever bring this out. This is just in my kit because sometimes receptions can just be super dark and a 2.8 lens just isn't cutting it. And that's when I need something faster and I'll pull this out. But I really want to upgrade this to the G Master 1.4. But until then, this is kind of like the filler lens in my case. Next up is the Sony 20mm 1.8. That's the lens I'm using to film this video right now. This I use a lot for establishing shots and just sometimes when we're getting shots of like all the decor. I just really like that wide angle look and that's what I use this lens for. Again, establishing shots, bride walking down the aisle. It's just a nice wide focal length to have. I personally am not a big fan of the 1635. It just doesn't work for me. I just feel like the 20mm 1.8 is just a better option. I originally didn't think I would use it too much for weddings, but I think this lens is absolutely beautiful and I use it all the time. Next up is a lens that I actually don't have with me because I don't actually own it. I rent it for all the weddings I shoot, and that is the Sony 7200 G Master Mark II. I think that lens is absolutely beautiful. I use it for all the weddings. I always rent it, but I just can't justify owning it at the moment because it's ridiculously expensive. I think it's 3,500 Canadian, but I can rent it for the entire weekend for like 50 bucks. So I think that's a great deal, and for every single wedding I go to, I rent that lens. And again, I'm just really happy with the results and I highly recommend it. I would also highly encourage you guys to rent it out just to try it. It's a great lens and I think it's taken my wedding videos to the next level and I highly recommend it. Next up is the last backup lens I have. Again, I just have it so I take it with me. It's not necessarily needed, but this is the Sony kit lens. I didn't buy my A7 IVs with the kit lens. I just got them body only, but this one, I bought it off of Facebook Marketplace. It was brand new for $100. So not a bad deal at all, just to have an extra lens. But again, this pretty much never comes out of the camera bag unless it's an absolute emergency. But again, it just comes back to the nice range. In case one of my other lenses breaks or something, I know I'll be safe with like the general 24 to 70 range. So that's why this stays in my bag. Again, I've never had to use this for a wedding, but in case I do, it stays in my bag. So with all the cameras and lenses we just talked about, all of that hardly takes up like 40%, 45% of the space in this thing. And that's just talking about this space here. We're not even mentioning the lid organizers. So that's just the beauty of having a case like this. And the audio stuff, let's move on to that next. This is the main recorder I use. This is the Zoom H4n Pro. This is the black edition, I believe. And I have two of the exact same one. I bought two because I went to a wedding once and they had a DJ and a band playing at the same time. And I couldn't get audio for both. So that was a bummer. So immediately I got a second backup. Personally, I just really enjoy having two of the exact same thing. It just keeps matching all the settings, super simple. And I know I can expect the exact same quality from all my products. And yeah, so the Zoom H4n Pros, these are the primary audio recorders. Now this is a little bag that came with my low pro camera bag. This is supposed to be for like batteries or whatever that goes on the outside of the camera bag, but I use this to carry all of my audio cables. So they all just fit in this nice little bag and I tuck it away in the corner. And let's go through all the cables that I bring with me. Let's start with the obvious. You need an XLR cable. So this is just a standard XLR to XLR. Of course, I need one of those. Then there is the standard 1/4 inch cable. So it's 1/4 inch on both sides because the H4n can take 1/4 inch and XLR. Now this guy comes in handy all the time. This is a super old school connector. I believe it's called the RCA, and I have an RCA to XLR. The reason why this is very important to have is because the 1/4 inch and the XLRs, they're super popular ports, and sometimes DJs have already used all of theirs. But this is a super old school connector, so most DJs aren't using this, but their board still has an RCA out. So this is pretty much the ultimate backup because 99% of the time they will have an RCA out that they're not using, and it's just XLR on the other end that plugs directly into my Zoom H4n. So yeah, that's very nice to have. And another cable I carry is the XLR to 1/4 inch. Again, I don't need this usually because I'll just use the 1/4 inch to 1/4 inch or the XLR to XLR, but just a nice to have, and it's just a great backup in case one of those cables breaks. And the last thing that I absolutely need is just some headphones to monitor audio from my Zoom, make sure the signal isn't clipping and I'm getting proper signal. So yeah, nice and tiny, and just throw them in the same bag as well. Everything packs away nicely just in this case, and it goes right there in the back. Next up, we have this little guy right here. It comes in this little sleeve, and this is the Sony TX660. So it's this tiny clip-on little microphone, and has this little clip at the back that you can use to clip it to any clothing. But I just use it with this little sleeve here. So essentially this goes on the microphone that they're using for the reception, and I'll just pull the sleeve on top of it so it just kind of looks pretty decent. If this doesn't work, then I'll just gaff tape it onto their mic. But if they're not going to be moving around with the mic, sometimes I'll just gaff tape this to the mic stand. That works as well. Pretty much anything to get this as close to the speaker. In case any of the DJ stuff fails, I still have this, because sometimes DJs' mics will get disconnected or whatever. So this is like the ultimate backup. That's just right there, right next to the speaker. And last but definitely not least, of course, we have the trusty old Tascam DR10Ls. Of course, I think every single wedding videographer has one of these. I personally don't use any wireless solutions, so these just come in handy all the time. This is for the groom and one for the officiant. I personally don't mic the bride. I just never feel the need to. These work for letter readings, for wedding ceremony backups, and if I just want to leave one of these on the table in front of the bride and groom to get their reactions as well to, you know, the person giving the toast, these just come in handy all the time. The mic doesn't come undone because it actually screws in. The person wearing them, they probably don't know how to turn it off because it's a bit of a process, which is handy. It actually saves the audio file every 15 minutes, so worst case scenario, you only lose 15 minutes worth of recording. You can set it to record at 2 different audio levels, so I have mine set to the medium high and then minus 12 dB. So yeah, I'm never clipping anything, and yeah, these are just solid little recorders. And yeah, you just honestly can't go wrong with these. I have 2 of them because, again, backups. But yeah, it's just nice to have. Highly recommend them. Tascam DR10Ls. I think that was everything for audio, and let's move on to drones here. And over here I have the DJI Air 2S. Now this is the drone of choice. I've been using this guy for quite some time. I used to have the Mini 2, which got stolen, and this has been the drone I've chosen ever since. It's got a 5.4K sensor, it records 10-bit, it's got 4K 60. I don't really need anything other than that. I have my own custom LUTs that I made to match my A7 IV as best as possible. So yeah, I've just don't have any issues with my drone. I don't see a reason to upgrade. And I have the Fly More combo. So I have the remote here. It comes with the extra batteries as well. So yeah, all of that stuff just goes with the drone. And yeah, that's the drone I used. It's the Air 2S. Let's also talk about monitors for a second. This here is the Shinobi 7. I'm really done with 5-inch monitors, so I try to use 7-inch monitors now. I feel like it's just not enough of a jump from the LCD of your camera to a 5-inch monitor. I mean, here I have the Shinobi 5 as well, which I just didn't bother selling, but I probably will once I get another one of these. But look at the size difference here. I mean, of course, if you like to, have a really small rig, then maybe the Shinobi 5 is the way to go. I personally don't mind having a bigger rig. So I would rather use the Shinobi 7 than the Shinobi 5. At the moment, this stays on the A-cam, what I use, because I have a pretty big handheld rig. But I would rather have the Shinobi 7, so soon enough, I'll get rid of this and get another one of these guys. And I also have a monitor right here that I'm using, which is another 7-inch monitor. This is a DesView R7P. So all 3 of them go in this section here. And yeah, that's what I use for monitors. So pretty much every single camera I've got going always has a monitor on top, so I'm not trusting the built-in LCD screen. Next up, we've got 2 top handles. Nothing fancy here. They're both small rig top handles. They get the job done, and yeah, I just like top handles, so they go in here as well. Next up, we've got these little lights here. Aperture MCs. I'm sure you guys know all about these, but yeah, nice tiny little RGB lights for weddings. These come in handy a lot for prep, in case I want to add a little bit of splash of color for like the ring shots, or just a room is really dark, I can just shine this off the ceiling. Yeah, they just come in handy all the time. And honestly, they're small enough that if you throw them in the bag, it just doesn't matter. So yeah, I have 2 of them. They just stay right there. And of course, you can never have enough batteries. So I have, these are actually new batteries I got. These are Power Extra batteries, and they have this like tiny little display on the back, which displays how much juice you have. And yeah, I have 9 of these guys that I just throw in here. I mean, of course, not all the big ones. I have 3 really big ones, 3 medium-sized ones, and 3 small ones for different things. Like I don't need a massive battery for my camera monitors. But yeah, 9 batteries, they just fit right in here. Lastly, we have the ultimate backup. This is a 25,000 milliamp hour power bank, and it's got a 30 watt out and a 65 watt out for USB-C and a 22.5 watt out for USB-A. So yeah, I can use this to charge my laptop if I need to for a wedding. But yeah, this pretty much plugs into all of my A7 IVs, plugs into all the lights. I've just made a point of having everything USB-C, so I can just run pretty much all of my devices off of this guy. Even my gimbal charges off of this guy. So I'm hoping not to use this for a wedding day, but in case all the batteries run out somehow, nice little backup here. And 25,000 milliamp hours, you're never gonna run out of this. And lastly, in this section here, this is just a dead cat, but this is where my microphone would typically go. I'm using it right now to record this video, and it's the Rode VideoMic NTG. I just keep it on my A cam or my B cam, one of those two, depending on whoever needs it. But yeah, it's for better scratch audio, or in case, you know, something is happening and you just have a better source of audio right on top of your camera, because you're not going to have somebody laved up the entire day. So it's just a nice little option to have. And yeah, that goes in the back section right over there. I think that's everything for the bottom compartment here. And moving on to the top, this guy right here, this is where I keep all of my spare batteries. And it fits 6 Sony batteries for my cameras. And I have 3 of them in my cameras and 6 more up top. The only rule is if this part is facing out, that means the battery is charged. And when it's dead, you just turn it over and put it in like that. So immediately, because you can kind of see through these pouches, you immediately know which one's dead and which one's not. And moving to the compartment right underneath is extra AA's. I have 4 extras. These are always fully charged, and they're for my Zoom recorders. Nice little backup to have. I don't carry AAA's with me because like my task cams, they take AAA's, but I personally, they never run out of juice, so I've just stopped carrying AAA's because I never use them. But the Zoom, sometimes I'll just need extra power for those. So yeah, 4 extra batteries, 2 for each Zoom. Next up, we've got this little sleeve that I mentioned earlier for the Sony TX660. Just wraps around the microphone that they're going to be speaking into in case I need it. And we also have a lens pen in case I need to clean my lenses. It's just nice to have. I leave it up there. And the last thing I carry with me is an extra Arca Swiss plate. Every single thing I own has Arca Swiss on it, so any camera can go onto any tripod, monopod at any moment. So yeah, in case I need it, I have an extra Arca Swiss plate in there as well. In the section right next to it, we have a ball head. I primarily have this because in case a tripod fails, I can just use my light stand, put this on top, and it essentially works like a tripod. Again, not the best solution, but instead of buying another really expensive tripod, I would rather just have a backup. These guys, not super expensive at all. I honestly don't even know when I bought this, but yeah, I just had an extra one, so I would rather just keep it here, and it turns my light stand into a tripod, which is great. Next up, we have a spare monitor mount. These are the ones with the hot shoe at the bottom. I absolutely hate using these. This is just a backup, right? In case something goes wrong, or for example, one of my camera dies and I need to use my second shooter's camera. He usually has an A7C, and I need to give him one of my monitors, and the cage won't fit on his camera. I have this as a backup. You guys are clearly sensing a theme here. There's a backup for essentially everything, right? I mean, nothing can go wrong. That's my motto. My couples are paying me not just for a great product, but also for like the peace of mind that, hey, he's got everything covered, nothing can go wrong, and no matter what, I'm gonna get a great result. That's what my couples are thinking when they hire me, and it's my job to deliver on that, so I have backups for everything. And I highly encourage that for your business as well. I think that's how you can separate, you know, yourself and kind of enter the higher price tier. You can say that, hey, you're not gonna hear excuses from me 2 months after the wedding saying that, hey, sorry, I couldn't get this because this failed or that failed or this happened. I mean, those things can always happen still, but just having backups is just good practice for, you know, just making sure you're safe no matter what. So yeah, I have an extra cold shoe monitor mount that I just keep in here as well. Next up, we've got a USB-C to C cable. If it focuses, there we go. I just like this one because one, it's red and it's right angle on one side and it's just a straight USB cable on the other side. It's a decent length and it just works with my power bank. So it's just a nice little cable I throw in there. And lastly, we've got these lens wipes. These are the Zeiss lens wipes. I have a few of them that I just kind of chuck in this case right here. And yeah, in case something gets on my lenses, and I can just quickly wipe them with that. This case has a laptop sleeve at the back as well, and it fits my 16-inch MacBook Pro just fine. So in case I need to carry that with me, which sometimes for same-day edits, you have to, fits that back there as well. I don't carry the charger with me because in case I need to charge it, I just use this power bank with the USB-C cable to charge it. But honestly, the laptop's got great battery life, so I hardly ever need to charge it. But yeah, that is everything that I carry with me to a wedding, and it just all fits in this great little case. Close it up like this. It's got wheels on it and I can just take it with me anywhere I go. Of course, you've noticed this is missing a few things like my gimbal, light stands, tripods, all of that fun stuff. Of course, they don't fit in here, but I have a separate newer rolling case. It's not as rugged, but it's pretty big and it fits all of those things just fine. And for those things, you don't really need like padding or anything. It's just fine, it just works. So I just got one off of Amazon, it works. It's got wheels on it as well. And yeah, those are where all the bigger items go. For tripods, my main tripod is the iFootage Gazelle TC6S, I believe. It's what you're seeing right over there. And it's got a Manfrotto 502 head on it. Nice fluid head, nice tripod legs. That's my main tripod I use, and I have honestly no complaints with it. It looks good, it functions well, and it's pretty lightweight. For my second tripod, it's what I'm using right now to film this video. It's a Mi Video tripod. This was a Kickstarter I backed like 6 years ago. And yeah, honestly, I still have it. It's not the greatest tripod in the world. I don't even think you can buy it anymore, but I still have it. It works just fine. And this one I don't really use to pan or tilt or anything. It's just like a second tripod for like wedding ceremonies. So it works fine just for that. Next up, I also use a monopod, and I have the iFootage Cobra 3 monopod. I was never a big monopod guy, but ever since I got this thing, I think it's just made everything a lot faster. I don't have to carry that big tripod with me all the time. The monopod just works. And I think iFootage is just making some great stuff these days. So yeah, I'm really liking the iFootage Cobra 3. For gimbals, I use the DJI RS2, and you guys can see it right up there. I personally don't have a lot to say about this gimbal. It's great, it works fine. I'm sure most modern gimbals will work just fine, so just get the one that suits your budget and I'm sure it'll get the job done. I personally just use the DJI RS2. The only thing that doesn't fit in here in these two cases is the Aperture 60X. That's the light I use for the reception to light up the dance floor or the person giving the toast. But I have two options with that one. I can either just take it with the separate aperture case that it comes in, or I can remove it from the case and just shove it in this. I personally would rather not do that because that light's expensive and anything can happen if it's not in like a proper padded protected case. So unless I really want to pack tight, then I'll put it in here. But most of the time, this is what the case looks like here. This guy right here, it's pretty small. So yeah, these three cases carry every single thing that I need to make great wedding films. And I'm really happy with this solution. I was just really tired of carrying like 20 different bags with me in and out of every single location. It just gets really annoying. So yeah, most of the time I just need this case. Sometimes I need both of these, and then ultimately, end of the day, I need my third case as well. So yeah, that is what I take with me to every single wedding I shoot. Alright guys, that was all from me today. Thank you so much for watching. I know this was a super long video, but I just had a lot to get through. And if this video brought you any value, then don't forget to leave it a like. And subscribe to the channel for more wedding video tips and tricks. And I'll see you guys next time.